All right. Could you state your name and the office you're running for?
My name is Tom Wilder, and I'm the incumbent district clerk for Tarrant County, and I'm running for election.
And why are you running for this office?
We have a number of projects in the county. We're redoing all the computer systems. We're building new buildings off of a bond election, and the district clerk plays an integral role in all of that, making recommendations to Commissioners Court, as do some of the other county officials like the county clerk and the sheriff. I'd like to finish those projects. They're very comprehensive and extensive, and as a member of the IT steering committee, we actually are the final recommendation that goes to Commissioners Court when you're drilled down into the details. So I've been doing this job and have run a very cost-effective office, and I'd like to keep doing that. I like the job. I don't really have any reason to leave at this point.
Briefly describe your qualifications.
Well, when I ran for office in 1994, I was a governor's appointee. I was sitting on the board of directors for the real estate center at Texas A&M. I had served on a number of other boards and commissions. I owned my own company, the Wilder Company, which is a commercial real estate firm. And some of the judges were giving me real estate valuations assignments for court cases, and they asked me to run for district clerk. The incumbent was not going to run again, so I had plenty of business and handling other people's money, and I've been involved in local politics for many years, as well as top of the ticket politics since college. So I had almost a perfect set of skills to do the district clerk's job, which is a combination banker, lawyer, personnel manager. You have to be sort of a jack of all trades.
What is the proper role of government?
Proper role is to make things work for the citizens. Government should not be the master, but instead be the servant. I was the campus coordinator for Barry Goldwater when I was in college, and I learned that early on, and still believe it. I was a national delegate for Ronald Reagan in 1980, and that kind of thought that we serve the people is what really motivated me to stay in politics, because I was trying to run a business that whole time as well.
When and for what reason should state or local government be allowed to seize private property under eminent domain?
That is one that I actually opposed, even though I was in the real estate business. I opposed the seizure of the homes around Northeast Mall. I don't believe that eminent domain should be used for anything except things like roads or possibly flood control. I mean, Houston fell down on the job down there and didn't. They allowed things to be built that shouldn't have been built in places where they shouldn't have been built. So the eminent domain is confiscation of property, and fair value must be given on that. That was some of the real estate valuations I did. I told the judge, I'm not going to let this property go cheap here. So at any rate, that's sort of something, these things where they're taking land for ballparks and things, I don't like that at all.
Is Texas in need of civil asset forfeiture reform?
Somewhat. The real problem, because being the clerk of the courts, I see these things. Part of what is filed in my courts are seizures in the criminal area, but the feds are the most abusers. When I was in commercial real estate, you had to be very careful about who you rented to, because they would take your property in a heartbeat. If you took a tenant that was dealing dope that you didn't know about it, or making dope, you just like as not to lose your property. You were considered guilty, and you had to prove yourself innocent. That's wrong.
What is your position on marriage rights?
I was active in the constitutional amendment of marriages between one man and one woman. I organized some people here. I went into the Muslim community, who was very receptive to being with us on that. Bob Ray Sanders, who was the executive editor to Star-Telegram, couldn't believe I was in there. I said, hey, there's a lot of people in the Hispanic community and Muslim community who will not buy this thing and will support this amendment.
Great. And what are the top 3 issues for your campaign?
Well, to continue the cost-effective management of the office. The clerk's office has been around by that name since the 13th century. I have 27 elected courts, 15 appointed courts, for a total of 42 courts. I have 60,000, well actually this last year it hit 65,000 cases. That's felony criminal, all the family cases, the juvenile cases, and the higher dollar civil cases. So we try to save money. I've been given 2 statewide awards from the Texas Association of Counties for cost-effective management, and State Representative Zedler gave me a special recognition from the legislature, which was presented at Party Executive Committee here a few years ago about my cost-effective management. So we want to continue to do that in what was one of the original bureaucracies in the world, starting back in the 13th century. And we also have this redo of the computer systems, which is getting costly, but they haven't been, we still have stuff that's 25 years old. We got our money's worth out of it. It's time to redo it. And you add the new buildings that we're finishing up on the bond election. I sit on those building committees too. So that's my 3 areas.
What do you believe are the top 3 things that make you more qualified than your opponent?
Well, my opponent has run twice against me as a Democrat. And he showed up at the party headquarters the last day and is claiming to be a Republican now. Hasn't worked in 15 years. He has an ethics violation, which he's claiming he doesn't, but I have it right here in my pocket. He has no skill set for the job. I had that when I came in the door, and I have over 500 hours of continuing education sponsored by the Texas A&M and the UT Law School and the District Court Alliance, which puts me in a really strong position to pay off for the taxpayer now, because I know all the little nooks and crannies, the ins and outs and whatnot. He's got nothing. He claimed that he worked for the district clerk. That was over 30 years ago, and he had a low-level records management job and not good employee reviews. I still have the personnel file. So he is some kind of nuisance candidate. It may be because I filed that ethics complaint on him. Don't know really why he's running. He isn't showing up any of the events. He wasn't at the party executive committee meeting or any of the other things. I think I'm by far the best candidate. The Democrats are running people against us on down ballot races. As far as winnability, I filed today that I have $125,000 in the bank, and we're going to beat this guy and then be in a position to hold off the Democrats in the fall.
Please describe your political experience as well as experience as an election volunteer, staffer, candidate, or office holder. Be sure to include names of any candidates or office holders for whom you worked or volunteered.
As I previously mentioned, I started out with Barry Goldwater and then Jim Collins, who was the most conservative House rep by the rating agencies. And when we moved to over here in the early 70s, I tied up with Bill Clements, who was the first Republican governor to win in Texas for 100 years since Reconstruction. I served on the governor's field staff, and I was an appointee in his administration. I've been a delegate to our Republican state conventions over, I believe 12 times. I've been a national delegate, stood on the floor of the convention to hear Ronald Reagan give his acceptance speech. I was on the host committee for the 1984 convention that was in Dallas. I served on George Bush's finance committee, one of Roger Williams' slaves. There are dozens of other candidates that I've worked for at the local level in judicial races. I was the chairman of the Republican Recruitment Committee in the 80s. I served on ballot security. I was a precinct chair. I was an area leader. And essentially, I have a lifelong history of involvement with conservative politics. We were looked at interlopers when we came in with Reagan. We were looked at as many like the Tea Party is now. And yet we persevered, and we won those races and then proceeded to turn the local races over, where we hold virtually all of the local elected offices. So.
Awesome. That was all for the questions. Do you have anything else that you would like to say to the people or the board?
Well, I believe many people know of my efforts here. Last night at the party executive committee meeting, there were many people that came up and wore my stickers, even though I've got an opponent. The party chair has endorsed me, even though it's a contested primary, and the vice chair, as well as the living party chairs, because they know this is a Republican in name only. He's not for real. And I just hope our voters, we can get that word out to the voters. With all the new move-in, I need to run a race. We have quite a few new voters that wouldn't know any of us, and we've got to be in a position to hold these races when the fall election comes. So I hope that I'm given the opportunity. The voters are the landlord, and I'm just the tenant, and I'm asking for my lease to be renewed for 4 more years.
And do you have a website for your campaign?
I'm having a little trouble with my website. It's sort of down right now, so I'm mainly using Facebook. It's at Reelect Tom Wilder, District Clerk. And I'm finding that I can post things much quicker there, and I don't know that I'm going to rebuild my website at all, but it was wildercampaign.com. If you Google Tom Wilder, it'll give you pieces of it that show the background, a lot of old pictures and things of documenting my conservative politics.
Great. All right, that's it.
All right.